Doctor Strange, a film I have not seen since it came out in theaters. I decided to rewatch that again. As you guys have probably noticed on my channel, I've been taking a look at some of the old Phase 1 through 3 Marvel films because I saw Thor Love and Thunder and Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness, and I think they are pretty shite. So I'm trying to go back and see how some of the other films hold up because most of them I have not seen since they came out in theaters. Maybe a few I rewatched, like Iron Man and Avengers. But other than that, I have barely watched them since they were out in theaters. And so I decided to check out the Thor 1 through 3, and I got videos on those already out. And now I decided to check out Doctor Strange to be next up on the block. Now, after watching it again, it is far better than I remember because I remember not enjoying the main villain or Dormammu, and some of the stuff seemed a little wonky to me, just like, a little weird, and its time placement was a little confusing. This was after Avengers 2, I think, that it came out, and it was just like, okay, its placement is just kind of odd. It's a little odd here. But no, I love his character, dude. He starts off as kind of like a little bit of an asshole. He's very good at his job. He's like a super surgeon. He's able to do a lot of things that a lot of people can't do. He's very precise. Even when he's like doing his surgeries, he's more like he's having people play music and he's guessing what music it is. And he's just doing this like it's nothing, just like, doing the surgery part, like who cares? But he does not want his record to be tarnished ever. So sometimes there are people that need attention, but he's not going to serve them if he thinks he cannot save them. He does not want to have any blemish on his record at all. He cares about it that much. But he's going to go try to hang out with the girl that he likes, Christine, and, a fellow worker and whatnot. But they seem to have been having a little back and forth for a while, and he's going to make a move on that. But on his way there, he's like checking on his computer or something if there's any accidents that he can try to help out. And he ends up getting in a car accident, and his hands get super fucked up. And so he's got to rely on everybody else to do what they can to save them. And he spends all his time and money in trying to, get his hands healed up and better, but it's just not really working out. And Christine has been trying to be there for him that whole time, but he's just so much of an asshole and like literally says some shit that sets her off. And he goes and tries to look for, he's abandons the typical way that he's looking for stuff and tries to track down some people that have recovered from stuff, in ways that are like, what the fuck, the modern medicine couldn't do it. And he finds this one guy, and he had like something that he turned away. Like Doctor Strange turned him away because he was unfixable as far as he can tell. But here he is, nice and good, and he tells him to go to Carmitage or whatever. I forget if he tells him that specifically or Sanctum Sanctorum. He says go to Carmitage. And so Doctor Strange goes over there. He is kind of desperate, and he is about to get jumped, but then we get Mordo that saves his butt right there, kicks a little butt, and takes him to the Sanctum and gets a little, view through what's going on there. He's very in disbelief about a lot of it. Just very, not disbelief. He's like, oh, this is all bullshit. What are you going to do? You're going to, tell me the science of what's going on here. And she like puts him into this little astral plane, and he sees the universe in a way he never thought before. She says a lot of things that kind of contradict future MCU stuff, like the Loki show, where they say that there isn't a multiverse, but in here they clearly state there is. There's different, there's like infinite amount of universes, like with this one, and then there's also a multiverse, two separate things stated in a way that sounds like they are not the same thing. There's an infinite amount of Earths, or like an infinite amount of our universes, and then there's a multitude of different universes altogether separate from ours. So maybe the Loki show phrases it in a way that also makes that fit and make sense, but I don't know. Anyway, back to this. He gets his mind blown, and he is ready to learn more about what they're doing. And he gets kicked out though, and then he's like there all day, and they let him in at some point because he's persistent, and they need some help and at some point to defend against the guy that went rogue against them. There's a dude that went rogue, and he's trying to summon Dormammu, and he thinks that there'll be immortality when he summons him there, that he'll like liberate them from death, because that's the only thing that is like constant and stuff, gets into life and death quite a bit in this film. And instead of like summarizing the rest of the film for everybody, because everybody's probably seen this before by now, of course, I'm just going through the motions with it. There's a lot of things that happen in there that I do that I like. I mean, the fact that they show Doctor Strange train, for one, is it's nice to see characters train. Nowadays, they, especially with women, always have them be very good at whatever it is at the very start, and they're the bestest ever. And it's like, I like seeing characters not be at the bestest ever at the start, and they have to get up to that point. And at some point, there he's learning how to fight a little bit, and he was a little surprised by that. He was like, "Well, we can fight. Like, what are we doing here? I thought this was like a way to heal ourselves." And no, no, no. He ends up learning the hard way that there's some other things that they have to fight against and that they protect and whatnot. And he ends up taking, he's like doing as much research as he possibly can. He's very like photographic type of memory. He learns very much by studying, and that's how he became such a excellent perfectionist at the job that he has. And so he's applying that same method to this, to learning about magic and sorcery. And there's these different items that allow for different spells and stuff. And I don't know, the way they explained that made a lot of sense and fits enough with the world. And the way they put it is like perfectly like the Avengers. Like, I assume this is taking place shortly after the whole first Avengers movie, but the Avengers protect the world from physical outer world threats, and they focus on the dimensional ones. There's other types of threats that come and try to attack them as well. And with the three sanctums, they have like this shield around Earth, essentially, kind of like how Iron Man wants to have, like, the whole world in a suit of armor, but this is like a suit of spell armor, essentially. I don't know if anybody has ever made that connection. It's essentially the same thing that like Stark wants, but it's a mystical spell thing around Earth that protects from interdimensional threats. But anyway, this film was just good, guys. Like, the comedy in it is okay. It's not too over your face. Like, he mentions a few things to Wong, and Wong just kind of looks at him like confused. And then at the end, he says a line that gets Wong to laugh, and he's like surprised that he even laughed at all because it was barely a joke. And it's just like, okay, nice and neat, nice and good. And yeah, the end fight with the he's using the time stone to try to beat Dormammu. Mordo does not like that. The Ancient One, when she dies, is a really nice little scene. It talks about existence and how things can last for a long time, essentially forever. But what are you doing? And you could choose to just fix your hands and you'll be fine, but the world would be worse for it. And there's a lot more. There's a lot more that you got to look into, and I freaking like it. I like it. I'm just telling you like events that happen in the story by now. So just to round it out, Doctor Strange is pretty good. The way they have a lot of scenes happen isn't as silly as I remember. A lot of it it lines up, it makes sense. When he kills somebody for the first time, there's a scene where he's just like, I didn't want to kill anybody. I'm like sworn to save lives, not end lives. He's a surgeon. His whole thing is about saving people. And at one point, he had to accidentally kill somebody, like in the astral thing. It killed the real person, and they want him to be like a sorcerer supreme, or they want him to be a master. And he's just like, no, I don't want that at all. But he kind of has no choice because they get attacked again, and he's got to fight them. And it's just really good. And he's willing to sacrifice himself when it comes to the end point with Dormammu. He puts himself in a loop where he gets killed many, 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 many times. And so it's like, if you want to talk about a character with sacrifice, this guy is willing to do that. And when you see Endgame, of course, he's again willing to die for everything. And so it's really well done. I like it. And it really adds to his character. And there could have been a lot more to explore in the future. But of course, we get Doctor Strange too. And I'll see you guys next time.